Good Monday morning. It's me, Kenny Polcari, your host of the party, and here I am with my Dunkin' Donuts. This is just my first cup. I had some coffee at home, and then I stopped to get some Dunkin' Donuts on my way. So today is March 21st, 2022, and here are the things you need to know to get your day started, right? So stocks ended the week last week strong, but this morning they're churning in place a little bit to the downside. Oil continues to rally back to $110 a barrel, while gasoline in this country is making new highs, nearly $8 a gallon in California, pushing $5 a gallon here on the East Coast. And Vlad continues to push into Ukraine while Ukraine pushes back, and there is no peace agreement yet. And what do we have for dinner tonight? We're going to try the Pork Chop Pizzaiola. All right, so good Monday morning to you. Stocks ended the week, like I said, with strong gains, notching their best week since November of 2020. This as Putin continues to push into Ukraine. Oil moves higher again after a swift pullback. Food commodities like wheat, corn, and soybeans also moved higher. The 10-year Treasury ended the week yielding 2.15%, while the 30-year ended at 2.42%. Gold fell 1% to end the week at $19.26 an ounce, down from $2,050 just 2 weeks ago, but still up from the early February levels of around $1,800 an ounce. At the close of the bell on Friday, the Dow had added another 275 points, or 0.8%. The S&P up 52, or 1.2%. The Nasdaq up 280 points, or 2%. The Russell up 21 points, or 1%, while the transports gave back 86 points, or 0.5%. But they had a dramatic advance over the last week. The enthusiasm for stocks, though, after weeks of decline is due to the solid fundamentals that many analysts are out there pushing, saying that these very fundamentals are going to allow the U.S. companies to continue to deliver strong profits even in the face of rising costs, right? These are the same analysts saying that the strong labor market will keep consumers spending like drunken sailors. Look, last week, Jay made it clear that the economy is on solid footing, which is why he is now comfortable starting to tighten without putting the U.S. into a recession in his mind. And that's where I and many others are challenging that mindset. Fed fund rates are now between 0.25% and 0.5%. The 10-year Treasury is yielding 2.4%. The inflation is running at 10% at the producer level and is running at nearly 8% at the consumer level. This suggests that the Fed is way behind the eight ball and needs to get more aggressive if they are serious in tamping down inflation, considering that they missed the signs on the way up. Well, maybe they didn't. Maybe this is what Jay and members of the Fed wanted to see happen. And while that's difficult to understand, it is an interesting thought considering so many of us saw the signs brewing back in the spring and summer of 2021. And we were talking about it, yet the Fed didn't want to see it. At this point, though, it doesn't make a difference. We're here, and it is what it is. And rates are expected to increase by another 1.5% before the end of the year, which still leaves us well below where we should be at this point in the cycle, if, in fact, inflation continues to advance, which many think it will, myself included. Of the 11 S&P sectors, consumer discretionary XLY led the way higher on Friday, gaining 2.1%, followed by tech, gaining 2%, communications up 1.3%. Note that these are the three sectors that have been the biggest losers this year, and so that is where bargain hunters are going to go looking for value. And it makes perfect sense, right? And that caused the growth trade, the SPYG, to rally by 1.3%, leaving it still down 11% year to date, while the value trade, the SPYV, gained 0.3%, but that is only down 1.3% year to date, so far outperforming. The weekend didn't bring any new news concerning peace talks at all. While Turkey appears to be taking the lead in these talks, Vlad has made it clear that he has no interest in having discussions until Kiev and Mariupol and other key cities surrender. And at the moment, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case, right? Ukrainians are a tough crowd, and they're not going to go down without a real fight. Now, Vlad thought this would be a one-week event, right? We're now entering the fourth week of constant bombardment, and there are no signs of surrender, no white flags. Over the weekend, Ukraine President Zelensky warned that if peace talks failed, it could mean the start of a third world war, which is a little bit unsettling to think about, but I'm not so sure he's so wrong. The sanctions imposed on Moscow by the civilized world are putting pressure on Vlad. Yet he continues to thumb his nose at the world, ready at any moment to ramp it up, which is keeping NATO in check. The Sunday talk show's digesting the latest moves, detailing how he's trying to take control of the whole southern region of Ukraine, from Odessa all the way up to Mariupol, effectively cutting Ukraine off from the Black Sea, giving Russia complete control over the port cities. On Friday morning, Joey had a Zoom call with Xi Jinping, president of China, warning him of standing back and not supporting Vlad during this war, saying that China risks normal relations with the U.S. if Beijing provides substantive assistance to Moscow. During the call, he laid out the unified Allied response, the range of economic sanctions that we've imposed on Russia and the oligarchs, the withdrawal of foreign business, and the global condemnation of this invasion, suggesting that the same could come true for China if they supported Russia in this war. Xi making it clear that this crisis is something we don't want to see, and that conflict and confrontation are not in the interest of anyone. But China would respond in kind to any punishment that any country attempted to impose upon them. Joey went on to say that Beijing does have a responsibility to use its influence to help end this war, while Xi remains steadfast, saying that China remains a neutral party and can and would facilitate peace negotiations to help it bring this to an end. And while that all sounds good, it isn't making much headway, partly because Xi's talking out of both ends, right? And who can really believe anything that he says? Because I think that's really part of the issue, right? No one really believes him. This morning, Joey is due to have a Zoom call with France, Italy, and Germany. This ahead of his trip to Europe later this week to address the allies about what's next and what to do and what could potentially be on the table for discussion, right? Eco-data on Friday showed that existing home sales fell by 7.2% versus the decline of 6.2% that everyone thought. And the 30-year mortgage rates are now pushing 4.5% for conforming loans and 5% for jumbo. And that's going to cause the red-hot housing market to stall. And once we get conforming rates at 5%, then watch the housing market begin to correct. And what that correction is still unclear. Is it 10%? Is it 20%? Is it 30%? Considering it's gone absolutely bonkers over the last 2 years, watch how quickly prices will collect as the Fed raises the funds rate, pushing mortgage rates to levels never seen by a whole generation of millennials and Gen Zers. It's a simple math problem, nothing else. As the cost of money increases, the cost of a home ownership increases. So in order to correct that, home prices have to come down. It's Econ 101. Today we're going to get the Chicago Fed survey, and later on in the week look for new home sales, which are expected to be up 1.3%, but that's going to be interesting, and pending home sales, which are expected to be up 1%. Again, those are two very key numbers concerning the housing market. U.S. futures are down this morning as the sun rises over the Atlantic. Dow futures were down about 100 points. S&P is down 7. NASDAQ was lower by 55. The Russell is off by 7. This was earlier around 6 o'clock. Fed Chair Powell and Atlanta's Fed President Rafi Bostic are both due to speak today at different events, so expect investors to be listening to what they say and how they say it, what the tone of their language is. Word that a Boeing 737 has crashed in China hit the tape at 5 a.m. this morning, and the stock was immediately quoted down 6% or $12 towards 180-ish, right? Expect this also to be topic of the day, but from what I understand, it was not a 737 MAX, and so that may relieve some of the pressure. Oil's up 4% or $4.20 to $110 a barrel. Gasoline in California hits $8 a gallon, while gasoline along the East Coast is pushing $5. This is interesting because 2 weeks ago when oil was trading at $130 a barrel, gasoline in California was closer to $5, and along the East Coast it was pushing $4. But price increases are called momentum, right? They were momentum pushing up, something that we're also going to see in the upcoming inflation data. In addition, over the weekend, a Houthi attack on a Saudi Aramco oil terminal in Yanbu could hamper production, and that's helping to send prices higher again. And news that OPEC and OPEC Plus, which includes Russia, showed that production is below agreed upon supply quotas, and that too is causing prices to rise. Recall last week I told you Morgan and RBC have both upped their year-end price targets to about $150 a barrel, while our friends at Goldman continue to believe that it's only going to $135 a barrel. But I suspect that they're going to ramp up their outlook when they need to create chaos and some trading revenue, right? They'll up their numbers and create all kinds of noise. European markets this morning were flat. At 6 o'clock this morning, markets across the region were all trading just around the unchanged line. European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde is due to speak at the BIS Innovation Summit tomorrow. So people will be listening to what she has to say. And Bank of England Governor Andy Bailey is due to speak at that same conference on Wednesday. Bitcoin this morning is trading at 41,600, just up a little bit, while Ethereum is trading at 2,900, also up from last week's prices around 28-ish, the 2,800-ish. The S&P closed at 44.63, breaking right up and through short-term resistance at 44.35, and now attempting to pierce the longer-term resistance at 44.70. The death cross that happened last week is doing little to cause any concerns this morning. And while this recent push higher feels good, I'm not convinced yet that the volatility is over. I remain overweight the value plays like financials, consumer staples, and large mega cap industrials. I'm being very selective in the tech space, but I am finding opportunities in some of the classic tech names. Cybersecurity and defense aerospace are also areas to consider in this very unsettled environment. In any event, it is a new week and there is plenty of opportunity. So now, what are we having for dinner? So tonight I'm going to give you the Pork Chop Pizzaiola, right? So it's delicious. And it's just like the sister recipe for steak pizzaiola, chicken pizzaiola. It's a hearty, full-bodied dish that can be eaten all by itself, and you just enjoy it with a glass of Chianti or Vino di Tavola, right, which is like a table wine. There's no need to go over the top because it's all about enjoying the moment and enjoying this dish for what it is. So for this, you're going to need some thick cut pork chops on the bone, probably about 3/4 of an inch thick. You need olive oil, oregano, garlic. You need onions, red and green bell peppers. You need a can of crushed tomatoes, not puree, just kitchen ready crushed. You need some red wine, salt, and pepper. And you can have crushed red pepper flakes as an optional addition. So here's what you want to do. In a saucepan, you want to heat up the olive oil and add the crushed and sliced garlic and, saute it around for a couple of minutes until it's nice and golden. Then you're going to add in the sliced white onion and the julienne bell peppers, right, to give it some color. You're going to turn the heat to medium. You're going to cover it. You're going to stir them. When the onions and the peppers are soft, maybe 5 to 8 minutes, then you're going to add the crushed tomatoes, a can of crushed tomatoes. You're going to put oregano, and if you want red pepper flakes, you're going to turn the heat up, bring it to a boil, and then reduce it to medium-low, right? You're going to add about a half a cup of red wine. You're going to season it with salt and pepper. You're going to let it simmer and thicken up, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, right? Leave it uncovered, stir it. It'll thicken up because some of it will steam away. Now, next, you want to rub the chops with olive oil and salt and pepper, right? You're not going to drown them in oil, but just enough to massage them and prepare them for the skillet. Now you want to take another skillet. You want to turn it on high, get it hot, add a little bit of olive oil. When it sizzles, you're going to add the chop, right? Now, if you have a rib skillet, that works best, but whatever. You can sear it about 4 minutes on one side, then turn it over, continue cooking it for another 3 to 4 minutes. Now you're going to turn the heat down to medium-low. You're going to take the pot that's got the tomato sauce and you're going to add it to the chops. You're going to cover them and let them simmer now for about 10 minutes. And this should give you a nice medium chop. Now, if you could prefer, you can let it simmer longer and then you'll get a more well-done chop, right? Whatever you want, but when it's done, you want to remove the chops from the skillet and arrange on a plate. Next, you want to stir the sauce in a skillet pan. You want to deglaze the bottom, scraping anything off the bottom that might be left behind. And then you want to take a big spoon and you want to spoon the pizzaiola sauce over the chops with the peppers and the onions and the tomatoes. Just put it right over the sauce. You want to serve this maybe with a big salad. Don't make it any more complicated than that because you got vegetables in the pizzaiola sauce. You also got a nice green salad that's got cucumbers and tomatoes, maybe scallions. It's more than enough. You got your glass of Chianti to top it off, and it's a perfect night. The whole thing should take you maybe an hour start to finish. That includes even cleaning the dishes. In any event, look, it's a beautiful day outside. You can see it. The sun's coming up. It's probably going to be about 85 because we are now in spring, right? We went from winter to spring over the weekend, and so now it's going to start to heat up. In any event, until tomorrow, take good care.